A defeat for Everton in the Premier League this weekend. Man United 2, Everton 0 at Old Trafford, the early kickoff. I've got Pete and I've got Ryan with me, and we're going to go through this. Hopefully, not take too long to go through the misery of what that game looked like. Certainly to me, anyway. I think other people will have a different view on this. Well, I'll come to you first, Pete. The first thing I started criticising in this game, and I thought we were quite fortunate to get through to, before they took the lead, I thought they had so many chances. I think obviously Paul, obviously Peter. Your side of it, when you look at Ben Godfrey, I mean, completely stuck everything out in my opinion early doors in this game, and Jordan Pickford kept it respectable to only lose 2-0 in the end. But I thought it took Sean Dyche too long to take him out, because I thought from about 10-15 minutes in he looked so out of the pace to Godfrey.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the Corey was obviously a huge miss for Everton, not just in the midfield, but in terms of just that the press that he does, and he tends to sort of harass whoever tends to be trying to settling on the ball in the opposition. And I think he was a massive loss today, and that gave Manchester United the opportunity to be able to start pinging those balls over the top, and Ben Godfrey was exposed time and time again. I thought that it was a bit of tactical naivety from us, the fact that we had such a high line, especially kicking into the sun. I don't want to sound like Jurgen Klopp here, but when Man United took full advantage of the fact that our defenders were probably blinded by the sunlight coming over with the early kickoff. So it was, but no, that's not an excuse. That's just
that is top Klopp.
Top Klopp. That. Do you know what I mean? No, you like sometimes.
Yeah. No, absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
When you're kicking into the sun,
it's factual information. Like, it's actually just the way the world is. Do you know what I mean? It's just like nature. You can't help that.
It's something I'd want to take advantage of. Put it that way. If we were kicking the other way, and to be fair, United obviously exposed that, and we know that United have got quality on the ball. Certainly, Bruno Fernandes he can pick a pass out from anywhere. But yeah, I think it was just a bit of tactical naivety. Maybe we were trying to be a bit too much on the front foot early doors. We just got exposed time and time again. And like you say, it was. I thought that we could have made the change a bit sooner, even just to go to the sort of three at the back and try, just go a little bit deeper. I mean, in the build-up to this game, I was banging the drum for James Garner to come in and start and to play Onana in that sort of more, Decore-esque role, and have him sort of trying to run himself, try and put pressure on the United players, but obviously that wasn't to be. I thought, to be honest, talking about just in general though, Dave, I'm not going to be too disheartened by this, because going into those three games, realistically, I was looking at those three games as much to try and be optimistic and to try and sort of, go into every game thinking we've got a chance of getting a point or getting three. I looked at those three fixtures and thought we could realistically be cut adrift here. We could realistically come out of those three games with 0 points, and our goal difference could have taken an absolute hammering. So actually, taking a step back and sort of putting my positive cap on, I think that over the three games to get the 2 points and to only be 2 goals worse off, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And Jordan Pickford had a massive part to play in the goal difference in particular today, because he kept the score to a reasonable score rather than a cricket score.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, isn't it, Ryan? To come away from a game now, because let's face it, we know we're going to be involved in this. Hopefully not right up to the end, but if it feels like we're going to be involved in this for the bulk of the rest of the season. It's been the results that I keep on banging on about, these results that everybody else got in midweek was really good for us. I think each one of them actually did as well. But you see a game away, you look at the three. I think Pete makes a massive point there about the 3 games that we had. Chelsea, Spurs and United, to take 2 draws from them. I think all of us would have bit each other's hands off for that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's important to keep that in context, despite the fact that the performance itself was sort of the type of thing maybe you'd expect going to a team like United, as poor as they've been over recent years. But still, it's Man United, it's at Old Trafford. You can't put too much focus on how, I think Pete mentioned that as well, how poorly you've played, or how many chances they've had against us and how many goals we probably should have received. You can't put too much emphasis on that, given the fact that you've got the bigger games to come, i.e. starting with Fulham at home next week.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's one of those games that you'd rather forget pretty quickly and just move on to the next one. Because at the end of the day, I think when you look at this squad and the talent or the lack of talent that we've got in it, that these sort of performances are always going to come up eventually. And to be perfectly honest, if we're going to have a performance like that, I'd rather it away to Manchester United at Old Trafford than at home to Fulham next week. So
Yeah.
if we're gonna have a poor performance, let's do it in a game where it's highly unlikely we're going to win, and you go in there sort of hoping for a draw. I'd rather walk away with nothing and our tail between the legs there, and hopefully that gets it out of the system ahead of Fulham. Because when we talk about results, and a lot of people said it after we lost to Arsenal away, that we're not going to get relegated or be in the relegation battle on the back of defeats to United or Arsenal away.
Yeah.
It's going to happen when you lose to a Fulham or can't get anything at Leicester or Wolves or whatnot. So all my attention is on those games, and if we manage to get anything out of, I think it's tonight for us, but this afternoon for you guys, that would have been a bonus. So nothing lost there. I think we just need to turn our attention now to Fulham.
Yeah, that's spot on, and I think that's overall the feeling I get towards it is that if there are games, because obviously we're still going to lose games between now and the end of the season, as long as it's not against a rival for going down, I think that's the way you want to go. If you had to choose, if you're gonna lose a game, that's the one you choose. Is against a team like that. Having said all that, though, Pete, the first chance in this game is a golden opportunity, and I was nearly biting my hands off when he misses it. It comes to Ellis Sims, where he plays a nice little 1-2. I think it's either Iwobi or I think it was Iwobi or Gray on the right hand side, and it gets and I sort of understand what he tries to do, because you do get sort of twixt in between what sort of effort you want to put in, what sort of strike you want to take when you get into a position like that where it's on the corner of the 18-yard box, and sort of you're moving into the 6-yard box, and it's either put your foot through it as hard as you can, don't even look to place it in a certain area, or just keep it as low as possible, and hopefully you've hit it too hard for the keeper to get anywhere near it, or you take a much more confident strike that he side foots across the 6-yard box that he sort of scuffs and it goes out. When he did that, there's moments in games you get all the time, isn't it, where you're gonna live to regret that. And I think we're such a club. I think many of us as fans sort of see those moments in games. And you think, yeah, I'm not going to stop thinking about that. And the reason I'm not going to stop thinking about that is it'll come to pass that it would have mattered so much had we put it in. And that's what I felt from Ellis Sims. When he does that, I think it was such a hard game for him to go into, because I mentioned at the start of it, I thought that's a match typically will get between, I don't know, around 20 to 30% of the ball, and you've got to stay tight and defend well. I think by and large we did that, because you look at the 2 goals there you got, where down to individual mistakes. You look at Seamus for the second one. You look at Onana. I was spitting feathers with Onana when he doesn't track in with who scored for them again? Who scored the first one? McTominay, yeah. When he just drifts himself in and Onana doesn't stick with him, and I thought it was a dreadful goal to concede, given how well we had been, quite compact in how we defended. But yeah, initially that Sims moment, I was thinking, there's your Chelsea time once again. There's that Chelsea moment you got, and we're only half an hour into the game, puts it wide. I don't know how you felt, but that's what makes me feel like you pull the rest of your hair out that you've got left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt for him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a quick chance for him to sort of take. He'd done so well in the build up to it. It seemed like he was trying to get the ball into a good position for him to be able to lash the ball and to actually put his foot through it. But
touched it a couple of times before he hit it as well. Didn't he?
That was it. He just didn't quite seem comfortable enough with the position on the ball to be able to just lash his foot through it. So he ended up sort of going for a bit of a place. Looked like he was lacking a bit of confidence in his shot, to be honest with you. It was one of those where he kind of looked like he'd missed before he did it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, I don't quite think he realised just how much time he maybe did have on the ball. because it comes at you so quick, and obviously we can replay it. We can look back on slow motion replays, and we can pick it apart and all that sort of thing. But I mean, one thing I would say is it was good to see him getting in those positions and having the confidence to actually to play that 1-2, and he did show a few decent touches throughout the game. I thought he did okay. Ellis Sims going to Old Trafford and under the pressure, we saw certainly a marked improvement from the performance at Anfield. I think the Anfield game was he was just so isolated, he just couldn't get going. Again, I think even if you give Ellis Sims a few more matches, I think that's the type of chance he buries. Again, I think he probably looks a bit more comfortable coming in off the left-hand side, where he can open his body up a bit more, and like the goal against Chelsea where he was able to slot the ball in. But yeah, it's one of those things. We saw a similar sort of thing with Tom Davies a few years ago, or was it last season at Old Trafford, where he had a really good chance to do the same thing, and all we were saying was just put your foot right through it. It's one of those things, but I'm sure he'll learn from it, and we can move on. But it was certainly the best chance we had throughout the game.
I think there's a lot of trust being put into him there, Ryan, when you see Sims is taking a while to get in his side since he's been the manager. Got that goal at Chelsea. We brought him on towards the end, didn't we, against Spurs? And then you see this today. Seems like those opportunities are going to be coming for him more and more. Still don't think he's in a position where I think he'll necessarily start. I think he could well see him go back to type of putting Gray starting as a sort of striker. He hasn't been starting as an out-and-out striker, but he's been leading the line. But I saw more from him that was much more disciplined. I think he gave us an out ball when we were so deep, when they created so many chances, when Pickford was outstanding with the saves he made. He looked like more and more like a striker that I don't want to stereotype a big striker, but somebody who can hold the ball up if you need to knock it up to him and get up the pitch by 15, 20 yards. There was much more of his game than I haven't seen so far from him, and it gave me a bit of optimism to think, yeah, he's somebody who can definitely lead the line for us. Particularly, I always refer back to it, and it's quite a negative thing to say, but he started against Liverpool at Anfield and just looked completely out of his depth. You compare that to going to a similar away game with United, it was much more chalk and cheese when you're looking at him as a genuine outlet, as a striker for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes with a little bit of confidence. The more time he gets on the pitch, obviously the goal, you start to get that sense of a belonging, and maybe he feels like, after, giving Rudiger a bit of windburn to score that Chelsea goal, that he can match it with these defenders physically as well. And I kind of thought there was a few times he actually worked his man really well and was able to sort of hold the ball up, bring others into play. And I don't think we'd really seen much of that from the limited chances he'd got, sort of certainly since he started against Liverpool. So we're in a position where we're going to have to rely on him. We need him. So any sort of improvement we can see, over the next few weeks, will just be huge. And he was up against two really good defenders today, and you just kind of think, in this run home, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Wolves, he's not going to come up against necessarily the quality that he was up against, today. So certainly encouraging signs. I'll just be interested to see whether he stays in the team going forward, or whether they look, towards someone who can be a bit more mobile and close down, because I think that's the next part of his game. There seemed to be a few times where he sort of looked out of position in terms of when we were looking to press, and it just allowed United to move the ball around a little bit easier than I think Sean Dyche would have wanted.
The way in which he changed that midfield three, we spoke about it at length, didn't we, the other day, Pete, in the Subs Weekly about it. And Paul was absolutely spot on in what he thought would come in there, whether it be Onana. And he'd play that the way in which he did, where you'd see him probably a little bit deeper, and it'd be Iwobi who come over as well. You have McNeil one side, and you'd have Gray dropping to the other in terms of being central up front. And by and large, I thought that was okay. I didn't think we saw much whatsoever from McNeil. Hard to be overly critical of him, because I've been quite critical of him this season. I thought, why on earth did we sign for 20-odd million a lad from Burnley who's just not going to... He hasn't done much for us at all, but he started to get a lot better since Dice came in. I thought it was a tough game for him today. I thought, actually, as much as I've criticised Godfrey, and rightly so, that he could have helped them out a little bit more by tracking back, because that's all you're going to need to do when you've got Wan-Bissaka on one side, defensively that side, and you've got that Anthony. Don't rate him either, but he's lightning quick, and that's what makes the difference, isn't it? When he's getting behind Godfrey, when he's playing so high up when they receive the ball. I mean, he had De Gea was just pinging it forward to him at will, wasn't he? As soon as he got the ball, going in behind him. But yeah, more importantly, on that midfield trio that we saw, I thought, as much as I criticised again Onana for the first goal that they scored, the position he took in next to Adrissagay felt a little bit more compact and disciplined than I thought it was going to be. And then Iwobi was clearly instructed to be the one that drags us forward when we get the ball on the rare occasions in the midfield. And I thought he was decent. The fact that we come away with the stats on this game that we haven't had a shot on target, it's quite remarkable, because I thought we were better than to have not had a shot on target, and that's obviously been a problem all season long. But what did you make of the midfield trio and the way in which it started to operate?
Well, I thought it was a tough one, because I think United kind of countered the midfield discipline by basically just totally taking out the midfield with one pass, and he did it time and time again. And I think as I alluded to before, in terms of Decore's energy and that sort of, in that final third, if you like, when we're trying to do a defensive block and we're trying to do a defensive press, I think we did lack that little bit of extra athleticism in those areas. In terms of Iwobi as well, there was a couple of times there where he seems to have done the hard part. He's carried the ball well forward, but then his final ball has let him down time and time again, and that's just it's a frustrating thing. Again, I always feel for midfielders. I always feel for the midfield in a game like today, where when you're playing without really an out and out striker. I know Ellis Sims, obviously, he's only a young lad. We don't want to put too much pressure on him, but you kind of every single slight mistake you make is going to be punished in a game like today. And I feel like if you've got a proper forward line and you've got proper attacking threat and you've got players who are going to cause problems for the opposition in that final third, I think it puts them on the back foot a bit more and doesn't give them the freedom to be able to express themselves as much. And obviously without that out and out forward and without the real attacking intent that we do have, an attacking threat, it kind of, it negates any kind of positivity that you can have in that midfield area. But I think they did okay for spells. I think Tom Davison and James Garner coming on, I think they did okay. James Garner, again, wanted to get on the ball. He looks like a classy little midfielder. I'm really looking forward to seeing him get a good run on this side. I'm hoping that, with him getting minutes tonight, getting minutes the other night against Spurs as well, I'm hoping that he can be a big player for us, certainly in the running, and especially with Decore missing for a couple of more games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's such a shame, isn't it? The Decore, all three of them in that midfield started to really tick, didn't he? Decore, Onana, and Gay started to really show what they're about as midfielders, and a bit of redemption for both Gay and Decore, who, I mean, I think Gay stuck the place out when we got him back from PSG, but in the last half a dozen games, I think he's really showed what we first initially got from him when he first came to the club a few years ago. And Decore similarly as well. Thought he started his career with us really well, but then looked like he couldn't wait to get out. And then that issue with Lampard, and now he's started to look confident and much more the kind of play that you want to see from him, that you have seen from him in the past when he's working under Dyche. The person who comes in is going to be even more interesting when you've got a team like Fulham coming to us next week. But before we get into that, which we will do later this week, Neil Maupay managed to get a few games. And look, I think I'm pretty much, well, I know I'm definitely in the majority of fans who really don't want to see him on the pitch. He came on, and I don't even think he touched the ball, to be honest with you. It's obviously going to be a difficulty to, because we mentioned that in how much possession that United had. But all in all, Ryan, it completely defines that issue we've had all season. And look, if we don't stay in the Premier League, that's the first thing I'll be referring to all season long, will be just no alternative going forward. No, you could sit here all day. We could sit here all day thinking of a different system we could play. different players we could throw in there. You know, you've got Cannon scoring all sorts of goals for Preston down in the Championship. Get him back, get him in the side. But even that, you're thinking, well, he's going to be limited to the amount of chances we're able to create for him, which has been another big issue all season. But that's why I can't help when we don't get results from games that we really should. And I'm not saying today was one. I'm being a little bit more particular about the rest of the season so far. But I always find myself referring to it when we haven't even just scored. We didn't have a shot on target today. And you've got Mopé being the other option to come on after Ellis Sims, who's a kid that's still plying his trade in the Premier League. You know, you're really dicing with the devil to think you can get past not being one of the bottom three teams in the Premier League, aren't you?
Yeah, and especially when, the attacking players you recruit aren't to the one system. So, when Mopé comes on, it's a totally different way of playing than what it would have been with Ellis Sims, and it's the same with Damari Gray. There's no
Route
go-to
one's
plan
gone,
that we
hasn't
can
it?
look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. And then, so you're asking the team to change the exact way they're playing, turn it upside down the minute Mopé steps on the pitch. And, it's hard to do that with a team of good players, let alone a team that's battling relegation. I think that's the biggest issue. If it was, say, they're not totally the same player, but if it was Ellis Sims coming on for Calvert-Lewin, at least you could play a similar sort of way and get a result. But when you're chopping and changing between different players and different styles, it just becomes a bit of a muddled mess. And I kind of felt it was a little bit like that with Mopé up front. He can't really hold the ball up. He's not very good, full stop. So you just lose all attacking nous when those sort of players come on the pitch.
That's right. I think when he comes, look, taking aside the issues that I had that we paid 15 million, I think that was a crime, really, paying 15 million pounds for a striker that never really did great for Brighton. Hence the reason why they were happy to let him go. And I mean, Graham Potter worked wonders with him by still playing him, but they needed it. They had that necessity when they came up to the Premier League. So it's very chalk and cheese in terms of what club he's joining and what sort of we needed him for. But I could never see him playing outside of a system that was 4-4-2 because you're not going to be able to play a long ball up to him because he's 5'7", whatever it is. I mean, Maguire must have been basically getting a cigar out when he saw him coming on and Sims going off because physically he's going to dominate against a player like that. Even Martinez, who he's been one of the defenders of the season, hasn't he? Really, obviously won the World Cup with Argentina, but he's tiny too. But he's still a top class defender. He manages to work the way around how physically he's going to be dominated by most big strikers in the Premier League. That's why I was quite excited to see Ellis Sims against these two being given his chance there because Maguire's not what he used to be. And like I said, Martinez is a small lad, but obviously we couldn't get anyone near around him, and that's been a big issue for a lot of this season. But then to have Mopé come on what 70 odd, I was like, Sean, is Sims injured? You know, it'd be to your last resort, the very, very last resort you've got if you're throwing him in to get a comeback in a game. And again, I think you take that away from as much as I've slated him. Physically, he just doesn't have what you need when you're up against it at a big Premier League side away from home. And that's not to mention I couldn't see him doing that sort of thing anyway, playing at home. So it all points towards how unprepared we were from a mistake we made by not getting anybody in during January. And it's going to be in our heads a long time when you see Sean Dyche leaving Finch Farm at midnight, having not signed a player. We hope that isn't the thing that comes to the cost of why we don't stay up here. But yeah, just a final comment from each of you, really, guys. Premier League games are going on now as we record this. We're still level on points with the team that's in the bottom three. When things start to look a little bit more rosy, given the midweek results. But is that giving you any cause of concern in terms of you thinking that we're going to stay in this league? Because you seem, Peter, not putting words in your mouth, but you seemed a little bit more optimistic than one would think, having come away from a 2-0 defeat where we didn't have a shot on target.
Yeah, I say I don't think today defines us at all. I don't think it defines our season the same way it didn't lose my head when we lost 4-0 away to Arsenal. I feel like we've shown enough fight and determination over the 3 games, if you like. Obviously, today was a bit of a write-off, but certainly against Chelsea and Tottenham, I've seen enough in that side to show that we're still fighting. We're still fighting right till the final whistle. As I say, today's a bit of a write-off, but as Ryan said before, if you can have a bad day, have it at Old Trafford, where you kind of written that off anyway.
It's not a 6-pointer, yeah.
It's not, yeah, exactly. There's more important and bigger games coming up for us in the coming weeks. And certainly, I always, at this stage of the season, I'm going to be taking things in chunks of 3, and the next 3 games are massive. So yeah, we'll sort of reset, go again. And yeah, I'm not going to be too deflated by today. I'm just going to be keeping an eye on the other results.
Yeah, that's the thing that's the worst about this as well, isn't it? It's like you're looking at other results, and I'm like, wherever I am going out in the afternoon, I'll be like, who's done this, who's done that? Ryan, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I totally agree. I just think you got to look at the next chunk of games and just see where we end up. This is going to be a pretty crucial run in. The fixtures open up now. We get a swarm of winnable games coming up, and I just kind of think that one patch of 3 or 4 good weeks can save you from relegation, or one on the flip side, one patch of 3 or 4 weeks can relegate you, and that's just how finely balanced it is at the moment. We've just got to hope that out of somewhere we can pluck 3 wins, and that'll be enough to keep us in the league, I think. And I just can't see from the way we're playing how we don't stay in the league, to be perfectly honest. I think I've seen enough from what Sean Dyche has instilled in the team and the fight the team have got to be relatively confident we can get the 3 wins needed to stay in the league.
Yeah, I think I'd echo those views from both of you there, thinking that it's a one-off sort of. It would be a massive bonus to get a result against them, having like we did against Chelsea and Spurs. But yeah, we'll leave it there, lads, and have a good look towards what's going on against Fulham coming up, and whether Calvert-Lewin emerges from wherever it is that he's been, getting fitter and whatnot. I know he's back training, so it might be a completely different outcome in how we play against a side like Fulham, who are going to be without their main number 9, given that he's out for 8 games, I think it is. Given his assault against the referee. So maybe that goes our way as well. But yeah, enjoy your weekend, guys, and everybody else listening. Enjoy your Easter eggs tomorrow. And we'll have more stuff as usual coming every single week with the Blue Room. We'll be back with subs weekly on Monday. And then we'll go from there throughout the week. Thanks so much for your support as always. And we'll speak to you soon.